The gun wasn't pointed at Germaine. That would have been merciful. Instead, it sat on the table between her and three men in tailored suits, all watching her with the patience of predators who'd already cornered their prey. The youngest one smiled. The oldest one didn't blink. The one in the middle simply asked, "Does he know you're here?" Germaine's hands didn't shake. She'd learned that trick young, back when shaking meant weakness, and weakness meant you didn't eat. "He knows where I am every second of every day. Then he knows you're about to tell us everything." She met his eyes. "There's nothing to tell." The oldest man finally spoke, voice like gravel. "Mrs. Kong, loyalty is admirable. But in our world, it's also very expensive." The door opened behind them. Germaine didn't turn. She didn't need to. She could feel the temperature drop, the way air changes when violence walks into a room. "Gentlemen," Sung Joe's voice was quieter than death. "You're in my chair. Before you find out how she got here, before you see what breaks and what survives, hit that subscribe button. Because this story doesn't do happily ever after. It does something far more dangerous. It does real." 3 months earlier, Seoul was drowning in November rain. Germaine stood outside the restaurant where she wasn't supposed to be, wearing a dress she'd been told to wear, waiting for a man she'd never met to decide if she was acceptable enough to marry. The irony wasn't lost on her. 2 years ago, she'd been finishing her degree in Nairobi, planning a future that involved international development and making a difference. Now she was being interviewed like a prospective employee for a position that came with a ring and a prison. But prison was relative. And the men who'd found her in Johannesburg 3 weeks ago had made it clear. This arrangement would erase certain debts, close certain doors, and ensure certain people stopped looking for her mother. The black sedan pulled up at exactly 8. No early arrival to seem eager. No fashionable lateness to establish power. Just precision. The door opened. Kong Sung Jo stepped out, and Germaine's first thought was that he looked like a man who'd forgotten how to be young. He couldn't have been older than 32, but he carried himself with the exhausted authority of someone who'd seen too much and felt too little. His suit was perfect. His face was handsome in that severe, mathematical way. Everything about him was controlled. He looked at her once. A single sweep from head to toe that felt more like assessment than attraction. "You're on time," he said. Not a compliment. An observation. "You were specific about the time." "I'm specific about everything." He gestured toward the restaurant. "Shall we?" The restaurant was empty except for them. He'd rented the entire space. Of course he had. Privacy in his world wasn't preference, it was survival. They sat. No pulled-out chair. No hand offered. Just two people conducting a transaction. "You've read the terms," Sung Jo said, unfolding his napkin with mechanical precision. "I have. And you understand what this marriage is?" "A contract," Germaine said, "with specific clauses and no romance." Something flickered in his eyes. "Approval, maybe. Or recognition. My attorney said you signed without questions." "I had questions. But you'd already answered them in the document." She took a sip of water. "You don't want a wife. You want a solution to a problem. My mother is dying." His voice didn't change. Didn't soften. "She wants to see me married before she goes. She wants the possibility of grandchildren, even if she won't live to meet them. And you? I want her to die in peace." He said it like he was discussing a business merger. "After that, you're free to live your life as you choose. We'll maintain appearances. Separate bedrooms. Separate lives. You'll have security, financial stability, and protection." Protection from what? His eyes met hers properly for the first time. They were dark, intelligent, and completely empty. "From whatever you're running from. I don't need to know what it is. I don't care. But the people who arranged this marriage told me you needed to disappear. A wife in my world becomes invisible to everyone except me." Germaine set down her glass. "And what do you get besides a dying woman's peace?" "Silence," he said. "From my mother. From my organization. From everyone who thinks attachment is something I need. You don't believe in attachment. I believe it's a liability." The food arrived. They ate in silence. Germaine watched him cut his food with surgical precision, each movement economical, nothing wasted. "I won't love you," he said suddenly, not looking up from his plate. "I'm not asking you to. I won't pretend to love you when we're alone." "Good. I hate liars." He looked up then, really looked at her. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Fear. Gratitude. Desperation." Germaine smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I learned a long time ago that fear doesn't save you. It just makes you easier to control. For the first time that evening, Sung Jo's expression changed. Not a smile, but something close to respect. We'll marry in 2 weeks, he said. Small ceremony. Immediate family only. My mother. Your presence. Legal witnesses. And after, you move into my home. You attend necessary events. You learn to exist in my world without drawing attention. And if I draw attention anyway, then I handle it. His voice dropped half a degree. That's what I do. I handle problems. The way he said it made Jermaine believe him. If you're still watching, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you sign this contract? Would you marry a man who promises you nothing but protection and silence? Let me know what you think. The wedding was exactly as promised. Small, efficient, emotionless. Sung Jo's mother cried. Jermaine wore white because it was expected. Sung Jo wore black because apparently he always did. They signed papers. They exchanged rings that felt heavy and foreign. They kissed once, briefly, for the photograph that would be filed away and never looked at again. His lips were cold. When it was over, his mother hugged Jermaine with trembling arms and whispered, "Thank you for giving him a chance at happiness." Jermaine didn't have the heart to tell her there would be no happiness, only coexistence. The house, because calling it an apartment would be insulting to houses, was in Hanamdong, perched above the city like a watchful eye. Everything was white, black, or gray. Everything was clean. Everything was silent. Your room, Sung Jo said, opening a door to a bedroom that looked like it had been staged for a magazine. Beautiful. Impersonal. Safe. Where's your room? Other side of the house. Of course it is. He paused at the doorway. The staff will help you settle. If you need anything. I won't need anything. He studied her for a moment. You're very self-sufficient. I've had to be. Something passed between them then. Not warmth. Understanding, maybe. Two people who'd learned early that relying on others was the fastest way to get hurt. Good night, Jermaine. Good night, Sung Jo. He left without looking back. Jermaine sat on the edge of the bed that was now hers and stared at the ring on her finger. It was platinum. Expensive. Meaningless. She'd married a stranger who'd promised her nothing, and somehow, that felt safer than every promise she'd ever been given. The first week, they were ghosts to each other. He left before she woke, returned after she'd gone to bed. They communicated through staff, through notes left on the kitchen counter, through the careful choreography of two people sharing space while maintaining distance. Jermaine learned his routines by accident. Coffee at 6. Black. No sugar. He read 3 newspapers every morning. Korean, English, and Japanese. He worked from home on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The rest of the week, he disappeared into whatever dark corners his work required. She never asked what that work was. On the 8th day, they had their first real conversation. It was past midnight. Jermaine couldn't sleep. Jet lag and anxiety made poor bedfellows, so she'd wandered to the kitchen for tea. She found Sung Jo already there, standing at the window, staring out at Seoul's glittering skyline. He didn't turn when she entered. Can't sleep? Apparently not. She moved to the kettle. You? I don't sleep much. Ever. Not for years. Jermaine poured hot water over her tea bag, watching steam rise. That can't be healthy. Neither is marriage, apparently. But here we are. She almost smiled. Was that a joke? I don't joke. Everyone jokes. I don't. He finally turned to look at her. His face was different in the low light. Less severe. More tired. I forgot how. There was something devastatingly honest in that admission. Jermaine sat at the kitchen island, cradling her tea. What happened to you? Life. He moved to pour himself water. What happened to you? Same thing. They sat in silence for a while. Not uncomfortable. Just quiet. Your mother came by today, Jermaine said eventually. The staff didn't tell you? They did. She's very kind. She is. She loves you. She shouldn't. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. Loving me has only ever hurt people. That's dramatic. That's factual. Jermaine studied him over the rim of her cup. Do you always talk about yourself like you're a natural disaster? I'm a natural disaster. Controlled, contained, but still destructive. And I'm married to you. You signed the papers. So I did. She took another sip. Tell me something real about you. Why? Because I'm going to be living in this house for a while. And talking to walls gets boring. He considered this. Then, I don't like loud noises. I don't trust anyone completely. I've never had a pet. I can't remember the last time I laughed. Jesus. You asked for real. I was expecting something like, I prefer winter to summer. I prefer autumn. It's transitional. Nothing stays beautiful. Nothing lasts. Jermaine shook her head. You're exhausting. So I've been told. But he didn't leave. And neither did she. They sat in the kitchen until 3 in the morning, talking about nothing important. Music they'd heard once. Cities they'd seen. Food they missed. Everything except who they actually were. When Jermaine finally stood to go to bed, Sung Jo spoke quietly. Thank you. For what? For not trying to fix me. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something raw beneath all that control. I can't fix you. I can barely fix myself. Good, he said. Keep it that way. But the way he said it sounded less like a warning and more like relief. Pause for a second. Hit that like button if this is pulling you in. And if you're wondering where this goes next, trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment. The first month passed like water. Smooth. Inevitable. Changing them in ways too small to notice until they'd already happened. They began eating breakfast together. Not every day, but often enough that it became routine. Sung Jo would read his papers. Jermaine would sketch in her notebook, designs, patterns, ideas for the clothing line she hoped to start one day. What's that? He asked one morning, nodding at her sketch. A dress. Ankara print with modern tailoring. It's good. You don't know anything about fashion. I know what looks intentional. That does. It was the first compliment he'd ever given her. They attended his mother's birthday dinner together. Jermaine watched Sung Jo transform in front of his family. The coldness softened. The control remained, but the edges dulled. He helped his mother sit, made sure she ate, spoke to her with patience that seemed to cost him something. On the drive home, Jermaine said, You love her very much. She's my mother. That's not an answer. He was quiet for a long time. Then, she's the only person who still sees me as human. When she dies, that ends. You don't think anyone else could see you that way? No, not even me. He glanced at her, something uncertain in his eyes. You don't know me well enough to make that judgment. Then let me know you better. Why? Because, Jermaine said, surprising herself with the honesty. I'm tired of living with a ghost. That night, Sung Jo knocked on her bedroom door at 11. When she opened it, he stood there awkward and formal, holding a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. I don't drink alone, he said. I thought you didn't drink at all. I lied. They sat on her balcony, overlooking the city, sharing whiskey that burned and loosened tongues. Tell me about the worst thing you've ever done, Jermaine said. Pass. Coward. He looked at her sharply, then laughed. Actually laughed. It sounded rusty and surprised, like he'd forgotten his own voice could make that sound. Fine, he said. I let someone I love die because she betrayed me. I could have saved her. I chose not to. Your turn. Jermaine's breath caught. That's dark? I warned you. I was going to say honest. She took a drink. My worst thing? I watched my mother beg for mercy from men who'd already decided to hurt her, and I didn't stop them because I was too scared. I saved myself and left her behind. Sung Jo turned to her, really looked at her. How old were you? 16. Then it wasn't your fault. Doesn't feel that way. It never does. They sat in silence, 2 broken people who'd found each other by accident and were starting to realize that maybe broken recognized broken better than anything else. I don't know how to do this, Sung Jo said quietly. Do what? Care about someone without it destroying everything. Jermaine's heart stuttered. Are you saying you care about me? I'm saying I'm starting to. And I don't know if that's allowed. Who makes the rules? I do. Then change them. He looked at her like she'd suggested he tear down the sky. It's not that simple. Why not? Because everyone I've ever cared about has either betrayed me or died. I'm not good at this. I'm good at control, distance, survival. Jermaine reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away. He didn't. She touched his hand, just her fingers on his knuckles. Maybe, she said softly. You've been surviving so long, you forgot you could live. He stared at their hands. Didn't move. Didn't pull away. You scare me, he admitted. Good. You scare me too. How? Because I signed a contract for safety, and instead I'm starting to feel something I promised myself I wouldn't. His eyes met hers. Dark. Intense. Vulnerable. What are you feeling? I don't know yet. But it's there. Sung Jo lifted his other hand slowly, carefully, like she might shatter. He touched her face. Just his thumb against her cheek. I don't know how to be gentle, he whispered. Then don't be. Just be real. He kissed her, soft at first, then desperate, like a man drowning who'd just found air. Jermaine kissed him back, tasting whiskey and something terrifying that felt like hope. When they broke apart, Sung Jo pressed his forehead to hers. "This changes everything," he said. "I know. We can't go back to the contract. I don't want to." "Jermaine." "Don't," she said. "Don't think. Don't plan. Just stay here with me tonight." He did. They didn't have sex. They just held each other. Two people who'd spent so long alone they'd forgotten how good it felt to be touched without transaction, without fear, without anything except the simple need to not be alone. In the morning, everything would be different. But for one night, they let themselves pretend this was enough. All right, real talk. If you're feeling this, if you're invested in what happens to them, hit that subscribe button. Because this story is about to get complicated, and you're going to want to see every moment. 2 months in, they stopped pretending they were just roommates. Sung Jo still worked strange hours, still disappeared into his world of cold decisions and calculated violence. But he came home different. He came home to her. They'd have dinner together when his schedule allowed. Real conversations about everything and nothing. He told her about his sister who died years ago, taken by men who wanted to send a message. He told her about the woman he'd loved who'd sold him out. He told her things he'd never said aloud. Jermaine told him about growing up between two worlds, never quite African enough, never quite Korean enough. About her mother's debts to dangerous people. About the night she ran and didn't look back. "Do you regret it?" Sung Jo asked one night as they lay in his bed, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. "Running. Surviving. Every day," she admitted. "But I do it anyway. That's the difference between us," he said quietly. "You feel guilty about surviving. I feel guilty about everything else." She tilted her head to look at him. "What do you mean?" "I've killed people, Jermaine. A lot of people. Some deserved it. Some didn't. Some I just followed orders on because that's what I do." "I know." He went still. "You know? I'm not stupid. I know what you are. And you're still here?" "I'm still here." "Why?" She considered this. "Because you're the first person who's ever been honest about the monster they are. Everyone else pretends. You don't. And somehow that makes you more human, not less." He pulled her closer, kissed the top of her head. "You're going to regret this." "Probably. I'm going to hurt you." "Maybe. I'm going to." "Sung Jo," she interrupted. "Shut up and let me love you." The words hung in the air like smoke. He didn't say them back. Couldn't. But the way he held her tighter, the way his breathing changed, it was answer enough. The 3rd month, his mother died. She went peacefully, surrounded by family, with Jermaine holding one hand and Sung Jo holding the other. Her last words were to her son. "You found her. I'm so happy." Sung Jo didn't cry at the funeral. Didn't break. Just stood there like a statue, accepting condolences with the same flat effect he used for everything else. But that night, alone in their bedroom, he shattered. Jermaine held him while he cried. Deep, awful sobs that sounded like they were tearing him apart. He cried for his mother, for his sister, for every part of himself he'd buried to survive. "I'm hollow," he choked out. "There's nothing good left in me." "That's not true. You don't know what I've done." "Then tell me." So he did. All of it. Every kill. Every order followed. Every line crossed. He confessed like he was bleeding out, like if he stopped talking he'd die. Jermaine listened to all of it. Every horrible truth. And when he was done, she said, "Okay." He looked at her, devastated. "Okay. That's it. What do you want me to say? That I'm horrified? I am. That I wish you were different? I do. But you're not. And I'm still here. Why? Because love isn't about deserving, Sung Jo. If it was, neither of us would have it." He kissed her desperately, like she was oxygen, like she was the only thing keeping him alive. They made love that night. Slow. Sad. Perfect. And Jermaine realized she'd crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She wasn't just staying for safety anymore. She was staying because leaving would kill her. Drop a comment if you've ever loved someone you knew you shouldn't. Because what comes next is going to test everything they've built. The 4th month, the cracks started showing. Sung Jo's work became more demanding, more dangerous. He'd come home with bruised knuckles, blood on his collar, silence in his eyes. Jermaine learned not to ask questions, but she noticed everything. The phone calls at odd hours, the men who'd appear at the house with tight expressions, the way Sung Jo would disappear for days without explanation. "I need you to trust me," he said one night when she finally asked where he'd been. I do trust you. Then don't ask questions you don't want answered. What if I do want them answered? He looked at her with something like pain. Then I'd have to lie to you, and I promised I never would. So she stopped asking. But the not knowing ate at her. Then came the night everything changed. Jermaine was at a charity gala, one of the events Sung Jo's world required her to attend. He was supposed to be there, but got called away last minute. Some emergency. Some problem that needed handling. She was standing alone near the bar when a man approached. Older. Distinguished. Dangerous in that quiet way powerful men always were. Mrs. Kong, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We haven't been properly introduced. I'm Choi Min-hyuk. Something about the way he said it made Jermaine's spine straighten. It's a pleasure, she lied. Your husband speaks very highly of you. Does he? Oh yes. He's quite protective. Min-hyuk's smile sharpened. Which is interesting, don't you think? For a man who swore he'd never let anyone matter again. Jermaine kept her expression neutral. I'm sorry, I don't follow. Don't you? He leaned closer. Not threatening. Intimate. Let me be clear, Mrs. Kong. Your husband is valuable to our organization because he feels nothing. No guilt. No hesitation. No mercy. He's a perfect weapon precisely because he has no weakness. And now he has you. The words landed like a punch. He chose you specifically, Min-hyuk continued. Did he tell you that? He needed a wife to satisfy his dying mother, yes. But he chose you because you were perfect. Foreign. No connections to our world. No family that could be leveraged. You were supposed to be meaningless. Jermaine's blood went cold. Supposed to be? But you're not meaningless anymore, are you? Now you're his weakness. His liability. His love. I think you should leave. I think you should know the truth. Your marriage wasn't random. It was strategic. And if you've become more than strategy to him. Min-hyuk's smile turned pitying. Well, that's going to be a problem for everyone. He walked away, leaving Jermaine standing there, the world tilting beneath her feet. When Sung Jo found her an hour later, she was still standing in the same spot. Jermaine? What's wrong? She looked at him. This man she'd let herself love, and asked the only question that mattered. Did you choose me because I was disposable? His expression shuddered immediately. Who told you that? Answer the question. Jermaine. Answer the question. The ballroom around them went quiet. People stared. Sung Jo took her arm gently, firmly, and led her outside to a terrace overlooking the city. When they were alone, he said, yes. One word. One truth. One devastation. I chose you because you were safe, he continued, voice hollow. No family to threaten. No history in this world. You were perfect for what I needed, a wife who wouldn't become a target. And now you're the biggest target there is. Jermaine laughed. It sounded broken. Because you fell in love with me. Because I was weak enough to let you matter. Weak. She turned to him. You think loving me makes you weak? In my world? Yes. Then maybe your world is wrong. My world doesn't care about right or wrong. It cares about power and leverage. And your leverage now. She stepped back. Away from him. I need to think. Jermaine. Don't. Just don't. She left him standing there and didn't look back. That night, she slept in her old room. The one from the contract. The one that had been hers before everything changed. Sung Jo didn't come for her. But she could hear him pacing in the hallway until dawn. If you're still here, still watching, still feeling this, subscribe. Because what happens next will break your heart and put it back together in ways you won't expect. The 5th month was war. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind fought in silence and distance and hurt that neither would acknowledge. They still lived together. Still passed each other in hallways. Still existed in the same space. But the intimacy was gone. Jermaine threw herself into work. She'd started her clothing line quietly, using the resources and connections Sung Jo's name afforded her without asking his permission. If she was going to be trapped in this world, she'd build something that was hers. Sung Jo worked more, disappeared more, came home less. When they did speak, it was surface level. Polite. Strangers again. You look tired, she said one morning. I'm fine. You're not fine. Neither are you. Stalemate. One night, 3 weeks into their Cold War, Sung Jo came home covered in blood. Jermaine was in the kitchen when he walked in, and the sight of him stopped her heart. Is it yours? She asked. Some of it. Jesus Christ, Sung Jo. I don't need a lecture. You need a hospital. I need you to stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like you still care. The words hung between them, sharp and cruel. Of course I still care, Jermaine said quietly. I can't just turn it off. You should. It'd be safer. For who? Me or you? He didn't answer. She grabbed the first aid kit, the one she'd learned to keep stocked since marrying him, and pointed at the chair. Sit. I can handle it. Sit. Down. He sat. She cleaned his wounds in silence. A gash across his ribs. Bruised knuckles. A cut above his eyebrow. Her hands were gentle even as her heart was breaking. Who did this? She asked. People who won't do it again. Because you killed them. Yes. She pressed too hard on the wound. He didn't flinch. Do you feel anything when you do it? She asked. When you kill. I feel efficient. That's not an emotion. It's the only one I'm allowed. Jermaine finished bandaging him and stepped back. I miss you. He looked up at her, surprise flickering across his face. I'm right here. No, you're not. You left the moment I found out the truth. You decided I couldn't handle your world, so you shut me out. I'm protecting you. I don't want protection. I want partnership. You don't know what you're asking. Yes, I do. She crouched in front of him, forcing him to look at her. I'm asking you to trust me enough to let me in. All the way in. The good, the bad, the bloody, the broken. All of it. If I do that, I might get hurt. I know. I might see things I can't unsee. I might become complicit in things I can't forgive. But that's my choice to make, Sung Jo. Not yours. He stared at her like she'd offered him something sacred and terrifying. I can't lose you, he whispered. Then stop pushing me away. He pulled her into his lap, buried his face in her neck, and held on like she was the only thing keeping him from falling apart. I'm sorry, he breathed against her skin. I'm so sorry. For what? For choosing you because you were safe. For falling in love with you anyway. For making you a target. For all of it. I'm not sorry, Jermaine said, tangling her fingers in his hair. Not for any of it. You should be. Well, I'm not. And you're stuck with me. He laughed. Sad and broken and real. Stuck with you. Till death do us part, remember? You signed a contract. Fuck the contract. He kissed her, desperate and claiming and apologetic all at once. They made love right there in the kitchen, frantic and healing and necessary. Reconnecting in the only way they knew how. Afterwards, lying on the cold tile floor, Sung Jo said, I need to tell you everything. Okay. And you need to decide if you can live with it. I already have. But she hadn't. Not really. Because the truth was so much worse than she imagined. One more thing before we continue. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who understands that love isn't always pretty. Because this story, it's about to get brutal. Sung Jo told her everything over the course of 3 days. He told her about his organization structure, who the real powers were, what they controlled, how deep the corruption went. He told her about his role, the fixer, the cleaner, the man who made problems disappear. He told her about the body count, names she'd seen in newspapers, disappearances that were never solved, accidents that weren't accidents. And he told her about the choice he'd made years ago. Her name was Yuna, he said, voice flat. We grew up together. I loved her, planned to marry her. Then my sister died, and I found out Yuna had sold information to our enemies for money. Not a lot of money, just enough to pay off her mother's medical debt. Jermaine listened, barely breathing. When my boss found out, he wanted to kill her. I could have stopped it, could have vouched for her, taken the punishment myself. But I didn't. Why? Because she chose money over my sister's life. And I couldn't forgive that. So you let her die? I let him kill her while I watched. And I felt nothing. Absolutely nothing. His eyes met hers. Dead. Haunted. That's when I knew I was broken. That's when I stopped trying to be human. Jermaine reached for his hand. You're not broken. Yes, I am. You're hurt. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. She squeezed his fingers. Broken things can't love. You love me. I know you do. Loving you might be the most selfish thing I've ever done. Then be selfish. He pulled her close, held her like she might disappear. There's more, he said. Tell me. Min Hyuk, the man who spoke to you at the gala, he's planning something. I don't know what yet. But he's consolidating power. Making moves. And you being important to me makes you a piece on his board. What do? We prepare. I've been setting things in motion. Quiet things. Safe things. But if it comes down to you or the organization, you'll choose me. Every time. Even if it destroys you. Especially then. Jermaine kissed him softly. We'll figure it out together. Together, he repeated, like learning a new language. They spent that night planning. Not their future, their survival. And for the first time since the gala, Jermaine felt like they were on the same side again. The 6th month brought the storm they'd been preparing for. It started with small things. Shipments going missing. Contacts suddenly unavailable. Money trails that didn't add up. Sung Jo came home tense every night, working on his laptop until dawn, making calls in languages Jermaine didn't speak. It's Min Hyuk, he confirmed one evening. He's making a play for control, using my distraction against me. Your distraction? You. Us. He thinks I've gone soft. Have you? Sung Jo looked at her. Yes. And I'm not sorry. 2 weeks later, the first real threat came. Jermaine was shopping in Gangnam when 3 men approached her. Not aggressive. Just present. Mrs. Kong, the tallest one, said. Mr. Choi would like a word. I'm not interested. It wasn't a request. They didn't grab her. Didn't need to. The threat was implicit. Jermaine could have screamed. Could have run. But she thought of Sung Jo's training. The things he'd taught her quietly over the past months. Stay calm. Assess. Survive. Fine, she said. Lead the way. They drove her to a restaurant. Expensive. Empty. Min Hyuk sat at a table in the back, looking pleased with himself. Mrs. Kong, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? Everyone has choices. You chose to marry a killer. You chose to fall in love with him. You chose to become a liability. Get to the point. He smiled. I like you. You're direct. It's refreshing. He poured tea. Your husband is a problem. He's distracted. Emotional. Weak. The organization can't afford weakness. So what do you want? I want you to leave him. Jermaine laughed. No. I'm offering you safety. Money. A new identity. You disappear. He refocuses. Everyone wins. Except me. Except him. You'd rather die with him than live without him? I'd rather fight with him than run from you. Min Hyuk's smile disappeared. You don't understand what you're risking. I understand perfectly. You want to control him, and you think I'm the key. But here's what you don't understand. I'm not his weakness. I'm his reason to burn your entire world down if you hurt me. Is that a threat? It's a promise. From both of us. She stood to leave. Min Hyuk didn't stop her. But as she reached the door, he said, I gave you a chance, Mrs. Kong. Remember that when everything falls apart. Jermaine walked out with her head high and her heart pounding. When she got home, Sung Jo was waiting. He took one look at her face and knew. What happened? She told him everything. His expression went from concern to furious to something colder than winter. He approached you directly. Yes. He threatened you. Implied mostly. That's enough. He pulled out his phone, started making calls. Sung Jo, what are you doing? Ending this. By doing what? He looked at her. Eyes dark. Decided. Dangerous. By removing the threat. You mean? I mean I'm going to kill Min Hyuk and everyone who stands with him. That's suicide. The whole organization will come after you. Then they come. But you'll be safe first. I don't want safe without you. And I don't want to live in a world where they can threaten you. His voice cracked. Raw. Desperate. Don't you understand? You're the only good thing I have. The only real thing. I will burn everything down before I let them take you from me. Jermaine grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. Then we burn it down together. But we do it smart. Not reckless. Not suicidal. Together. He pressed his forehead to hers. I can't lose you. You won't. I promise. You can't promise that. Watch me. They stayed like that, holding each other in the eye of the storm, knowing the violence was coming but refusing to face it alone. Hit subscribe if you're invested in their survival. Because what comes next will test everything they are to each other. They spent the next 2 weeks preparing for war. Sung Jo taught Jermaine everything he knew. How to shoot. How to disappear. How to survive if he couldn't. If anything happens to me, he said one night at the shooting range, you run. There's money in 3 accounts under different names. Passports. Contacts who owe me favors. Nothing's going to happen to you. Jermaine. No. She lowered the gun. I'm not preparing for your death. We're preparing to win. This isn't something we can win. Best case, we survive. Then we survive together. He pulled her close, kissed her hard. You're impossible. You love me anyway. God help me, I do. But their planning was interrupted by something neither expected. Min Hyuk didn't attack. He waited. And waiting was somehow worse. The tension built. Days stretched into anxious nights. Every phone call could be the beginning. Every car on their street could be the end. Jermaine started having nightmares. She'd wake up gasping, reaching for Sung Jo to make sure he was still there, still breathing, still alive. "I'm here," he'd whisper, pulling her close. "I'm right here." For how long? As long as I can be. 1 month after Min Hyuk's threat, the other shoe finally dropped. Not with violence. With bureaucracy. The police came to their house with a warrant. Financial crimes. Money laundering. Conspiracy. Sung Jo was arrested in their living room while Jermaine watched, helpless. "Don't say anything," he told her calmly as they cuffed him. "Call Attorney Lim. He knows what to do." "Sung Jo, I love you. Remember that." They took him away. Jermaine stood frozen in their empty house, the silence deafening. Then she made the call. Attorney Lim arrived within an hour. Older man. Sharp eyes. Loyal. "Mrs. Kong, I need you to listen very carefully." "I'm listening." "These charges are fabricated. Min Hyuk has people in the prosecutor's office. This is a move to isolate Sung Jo, to make him vulnerable. How long can they hold him? 48 hours before they have to charge or release him. Maybe 72 if they push. And if they charge him, then we fight. But realistically, with Min Hyuk's resources, Sung Jo could be looking at years." "No." Jermaine's voice was steel. "That's not happening. Mrs. Kong, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset. I'm done waiting." She grabbed her phone. "I need you to set up a meeting." "With who?" "Min Hyuk." "Absolutely not. That's exactly what he wants. Which is why I'm going to give it to him. On my terms." Lim stared at her. "What are you planning? To end this?" "How?" "By being exactly what he thinks I am. Sung Jo's weakness." She made the call. Min Hyuk answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Kong, I wondered when I'd hear from you. Meet me. Tomorrow. Alone. So you can record our conversation? So I can offer you a deal." Silence. Then, "I'm listening." "Not over the phone." More silence. Then, "Dong Demon Design Plaza. Noon. Come alone or don't come at all." He hung up. Lim looked horrified. "You can't seriously be considering this." "I am. It's a trap." "I know." "Then why?" "Because Sung Jo would die for me. And I won't let that be for nothing." She spent that night alone in their bed, wearing his shirt, holding his pillow, and planning something she knew he'd hate, but would understand. Because sometimes love meant sacrifice. And sometimes sacrifice looked like surrender. One more time, like and subscribe. Because the final act is about to begin, and you won't believe where this goes. Jermaine met Min Hyuk exactly where he'd specified. Public. Exposed. Dangerous. He sat alone at a cafe table, looking amused. "You came. I said I would. And you came alone, despite what I'm sure was every piece of advice telling you not to. I don't take advice well." He laughed. "I can see why he loves you. Please sit." She sat. "So," Min Hyuk said, stirring his coffee. "What deal are you proposing? You drop the charges. You leave Sung Jo alone. You let us disappear. And in exchange? I'll tell you everything I know about his operations. Contacts. Accounts. Safe houses. All of it." Min Hyuk's eyes sharpened. "You'd betray him?" "I'd save him. He'd never forgive you." "I know. You'd lose everything. Better to lose him alive than dead." Min Hyuk studied her. "You know I could just kill you both regardless." "You could. But then you lose all the information I have. And you lose the leverage of knowing Sung Jo will spend the rest of his life hating me instead of fighting you." "Clever." He leaned back. "But I don't believe you. I don't care if you believe me. I care that Sung Jo lives." "Prove it." Jermaine slid an envelope across the table. "Account numbers. 3 of his offshore holdings. Verify them. Then we talk." Min Hyuk opened it, scanned the contents. His expression changed. "These are real. I told you." "How did you?" "I'm his wife. He tells me things. Showed me things. Trusted me." Each word hurt. "And I'm using that trust to save his life." Min Hyuk sat forward. "I want everything. Every contact. Every safe house. Every secret. You give me enough to dismantle his entire network, and I'll consider your offer. You'll do more than consider. You'll agree. In writing. Signed. Sealed. Or I walk out of here, and you get nothing. You're not in a position to negotiate. Neither are you. Because if Sung Jo dies in custody, I'll burn this entire organization down out of spite. I have enough information to destroy all of you. So you can let us walk away, or you can gamble that I'm bluffing." The silence stretched. Then Min Hyuk smiled. "I like you, Mrs. Kong. You have spine. Do we have a deal?" "We have a deal." He pulled out a contract, already prepared, because of course he'd anticipated this, and slid it across with a pen. Germaine read every word. Then she signed. She'd just become a traitor to save the man she loved, and it was going to destroy them both. Sung Jo was released 18 hours later. He came home to find Germaine sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. "What did you do?" were his first words. "What I had to." "What did you do?" She told him. Everything. The meeting. The deal. The information she'd traded. With every word, she watched something break in his eyes. When she finished, he just stared at her. "You betrayed me. I saved you. You destroyed everything I built. I kept you alive. I didn't ask you to do that." His voice cracked. "I didn't ask you to save me. I asked you to trust me. I do trust you. No. You decided I was too weak to handle this myself. You decided my life was worth more than my honor. You decided for both of us. Because I love you. Love doesn't give you the right to betray me." The words landed like bullets. Germaine stood, tears streaming. "I couldn't watch you die. I couldn't. So yes, I made a choice. I chose you living and hating me over you dead, and me having to live with that. That wasn't your choice to make. Well, I made it anyway." He turned away from her. "I don't know if I can forgive this. I know. I don't know if we survive this. I know that too." "Then why?" "Because loving you was never about survival, Sung Jo. It was about living. And I'd rather you live to hate me than die thinking I could have saved you and didn't." He stood there, shoulders shaking, caught between rage and devastation. "Get out," he said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this house. Get out of my sight. Just go." Germaine grabbed her jacket and left. She spent the night in a hotel, crying until she couldn't breathe, knowing she'd saved him and lost him in the same breath. At 3 a.m, her phone rang. "Come home." Sung Jo's voice was wrecked. "Please come home." She did. When she walked through the door, he was sitting on the floor in their bedroom, surrounded by broken glass from something he'd thrown. "I can't forgive you," he said without looking up. "I understand. But I can't lose you either." She knelt beside him. "I'm sorry. I know. I'd do it again. I know that too." He pulled her into his arms, both of them broken in different ways. "We're fucked up," he whispered. "Completely. I still love you. I love you too." They held each other in the wreckage, two people who destroyed everything to save each other, and somehow had to find a way to rebuild. If you're still here, still watching this journey, subscribe now. Because we're heading into the final act, and it's going to change everything. The aftermath was brutal. Min Hyuk used Germaine's information to dismantle the network Sung Jo had spent years building. Contacts disappeared. Safe houses were raided. Money dried up. Within 3 weeks, Sung Jo's value to the organization dropped to nearly nothing. He became irrelevant, powerless, and that saved his life. Because Min Hyuk had won. He had no reason to kill a man who was already defeated. But victory tasted like ash. Sung Jo and Germaine lived together like ghosts. Polite, distant, broken. He didn't blame her out loud. But the resentment lived between them like a third person. "Do you regret it?" she asked one night. "Marrying you?" "All of it." He thought for a long time. "No. I regret that loving you cost me everything. But I don't regret loving you." "Is that enough?" "I don't know." They existed in limbo for 2 months. No violence. No resolution. Just waiting for something to shift. Then Germaine did something unexpected. She started using the connections she'd made in Sung Jo's world. The wives. The attorneys. The accountants who knew where all the bodies were buried. Quietly. Carefully. She began building something of her own. Not power. Information. She learned everything she could about Min Hyuk. His operations. His weaknesses. His secrets. And when she had enough, she went to Sung Jo. "I need you to trust me," she said, laying out documents on their dining table. "We tried that before. I know. And I betrayed you. And I'm sorry. But I'm asking you to trust me one more time." "Why?" "Because I'm going to fix what I broke." She showed him everything she'd gathered. Financial records. Witness statements. Evidence of corruption that ran so deep it could bring down half the organization. "Where did you get this?" Sung Jo asked, stunned. "I traded your secrets to save your life. Now I'm using what I learned to give you back your power. Different power. Real power. This is enough to destroy Min Hyuk. Enough to restructure everything. Enough to make you indispensable again. But only if we do this together." He looked at her. Really looked at her. You've been planning this since the day I told you to leave. Since the day before. I told you, I'd rather you live to hate me than die. But I never said I'd accept you hating me forever. For the first time in months, Sung Jo smiled. You're terrifying. I learned from the best. They spent the next 6 weeks executing the plan. Careful leaks to the right people. Evidence planted where it would do maximum damage. Alliances formed in shadows. When Min Hyuk finally fell, it wasn't loud. It was bureaucratic. Arrests. Indictments. Assets frozen. He was removed so cleanly that by the time he realized what had happened, it was too late. Sung Jo was offered his position. He turned it down. Instead, he negotiated something better. Autonomy. Distance. The freedom to walk away with Jermaine and never look back. They took it. 6 months later, they were in Jeju Island. Small house. Ocean view. Quiet. Jermaine had her clothing line. Small but growing. Sung Jo consulted occasionally. Legitimate work. No blood. They were healing. Slowly. One night, sitting on their porch watching the sunset, Jermaine said, "Do you forgive me yet?" "I'm getting there." "How much longer?" "Ask me tomorrow." She smiled. "I'll ask you every day until you say yes." "I know you will." He reached for her hand. Laced their fingers together. "We almost didn't make it," he said quietly. "But we did. Because you're stubborn. Because we're both stubborn. And both broken. And both stupid enough to think love could fix it." "Did it?" She looked at him. "I don't think love fixes anything. But it makes living with the broken parts bearable." He pulled her close. Kissed her temple. "I don't know what we are anymore," he admitted. "We're us. Complicated. Messy. Real. And that's enough? For me? Always." They sat in silence as the sun disappeared into the ocean. Two people who'd burned down their world and built something new from the ashes. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was theirs. And that was enough. Epilogue. 3 years later, Jermaine stood in a gallery in Seoul, surrounded by her designs. The clothing line had grown. Afro-Korean fusion. Powerful. Beautiful. Hers. Sung Jo stood beside her, hand on her lower back. Proud in that quiet way he showed everything. "Your mother would be proud," Jermaine said. "She would have loved you. She did love me. She knew before I did. That you'd fall for me? That I'd never recover if I lost you." Jermaine leaned into him. "Good thing you didn't lose me then. Good thing you were too stubborn to let me." Someone approached to congratulate her. Sung Jo stepped back, letting her shine. When they finally left hours later, exhausted and happy, Jermaine asked, "Do you ever miss it? The power? The control?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But then I come home to you. And I remember that the only control that ever mattered was the control to choose love over fear." That was poetic. "Don't get used to it." She laughed. Full. Real. Free. They drove home to their life. Complicated. Imperfect. Theirs. And in the end, that was the only happy ending that mattered. They loved each other. Not perfectly. Not easily. But completely. And they chose each other every single day. That was enough. So that's the story. A marriage that started as a contract and became something neither could walk away from. Love that tested them, broke them, and rebuilt them into something stronger. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button. Like this video. Comment below and tell me. Would you have made the same choice Jermaine did? Would you betray the one you love to save them? Let me know. And remember, love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing to stay even when everything tells you to run. See you in the next story.